Good evening, all. Welcome to the first live feed from Poets Hub. I'm Robbie Dunn, the creator of Poets Hub. We have, first of all, tonight we're going to have an introduction from Matthew Hughes, who is the manager of Dylan Thomas's Birthplace. And then we're going to have readings by three people then. Natalie Alvera, who is the versifier at Dylan Thomas's Birthplace. And then David Wallington is going to do some prose for us. And then we're going to have S.J. Alexanderson. We're going to try and rotate it so they do a few each. And we will see how it goes. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Matthew Hughes to come in and tell us a little bit about the birthplace and what happens here.
Hey, Rob.
All right, this is Matthew. I'll let him carry on and tell you a bit about this place.
Well, I suppose that the main reason why we've invited the Poets Hub poets to come along tonight is to try and recreate the atmosphere that was here on a Wednesday night when Dylan was actually here. Now, the room that we're in, this wonderful study that belonged to his father, is probably, in my opinion, the second most important place in Dylan's life, along with his tiny bedroom, which is upstairs in the house. This is the room where Dylan had one of his greatest mentors in his father, DJ Thomas. It's the room where DJ taught him poetry from the age of 7, but also before that, he'd been teaching him Shakespeare from the age of 4, which is quite incredible, really, because we're told that by the time he was 7, when he went to his very first school, he was actually reciting huge extracts from Shakespeare to his teachers and to his contemporaries, which would have just blown their mind, I would imagine. So it's a hugely important room. There is a small library in the room today. There would have been a huge library in this room, a lot more books in the house than that we've got. And all of these books are made readily available to Dylan and his sister from a very, very early age. So both incredibly well-read children. DJ Thomas wanted to have a great all-round scholar in the family. Unfortunately, he just wasn't going to get it with both the children. Dylan's only interest was in English, and Nancy's interest lay in acting. So he had to settle for a poet and an aspiring actress. But in later years, the room on a Wednesday night, a night like tonight, would have been filled with some of the most creative people in Dylan's lifetime living here in Swansea on his doorstep. His huge circle of friends, the Cardoma group, as they were known, normally meeting in the Cardoma Cafe on Castle Street in Swansea, discussing all of the latest things going on in the art world. They would talk about the latest painting that Fred James had been doing, one of Dylan's greatest friends in Swansea. And then in later years, of course, you had people like Tom Warner, who was a great player of the French horn. He would come into this room and probably play his latest tune. But more importantly for us, it was actually where Dylan got to recite his latest works and get feedback on his poems. So it plays an incredible role in Dylan's development as a poet and also as a performer. So that's why we've invited you here along tonight. And we've got some wonderful poets and also a great prose writer, because of course Dylan was not only a poet, but a fantastic prose writer, even though he hated writing prose. So it's nice to have that, and then hopefully as we go along with these broadcasts, if they become more and more popular, we'll look at introducing other elements, other creative elements through art and possibly even music as well, to try and bring that feel back to this room.
So Dylan was actually born in this house, and he wrote, unbeknown to a lot of people, 2/3 of his work.
Absolutely.
What famous works did he write from this place itself?
Well, the one that really kicked it off for Dylan was his first collection of poetry, 18 Poems, which came out in 1934. And it's the culmination, really, of work in his last 4 poetry notebooks that he completed here. But we think over the course of time, whilst he was living at this house, he actually filled over 10 poetry notebooks.
Yeah.
The most incredible thing when you see the notebooks is that what they actually are just school exercise books. And it drives home the point that this is really a boy, a grammar school boy, who's just writing up in his room, being extremely meticulous with his work and just the love of writing. And that comes through when you see these books. Absolutely incredible.
Right. Well, that's a great introduction to this actual fantastic house in Swansea. So what we'll do now, hopefully, is invite Natalie in to give us some of her work, and we'll question her on some of her favourite poets. And by the way, she is the versifier for this house for this year. So if we can have Natalie in, that'd be fantastic.
I'll go and fetch her now. I'm
Thank
sure
you
she's
very
looking
much.
forward to it. Thanks a
Okay.
lot.
And by the way, there is a comment track here on this as well. So if you're on Google Plus, you can actually talk to us, and we will try and answer your questions also. And then Natalie, have a seat. This is Natalie. She's the versifier at the Dylan Thomas Birthplace, and what we will do now is I'll let you get on with your stuff, and then we'll have a quick chat about different aspects of poetry with you.
Okay, I'll read two poems to start. One I'm going to start off with, I think it's only fair to start off with a Dylan Thomas poem. It's actually the first one that ever got me into poetry. It's Love in the Asylum. A stranger has come to share my room in a house not right in the head. A girl, mad as birds, bolting the night of the door with her arm her plume. Straight in the mazed bed, she deludes the heaven-proof house with entering clouds. Yet she deludes with walking in nightmarish room, at large as the dead, or rides the imagined oceans of the male walls. She has come possessed, who admits the delusive light through the bouncing wall. Possessed by the skies, she sleeps in the narrow trough, yet she walks the dust, yet raves at her will, on the madhouse boards, worn thin by my walking tears. And taken by light in her arms, at long and dear last, I may without fail suffer the first vision that set fire to the stars.
Yeah.
So that's the first one that ever got me into writing. And for the next one, I'll read one of my own. It was recently published in Irish magazine, The Stinging Fly, which was started by one of the writers from Caerphilly, who was in the Kerry Head Winter Woods. This one's called Black Dog. It woke me just this morning, nose pushed to my sleepy cheek, breath shuffling down my cool neck, my faithful black dog. His tail clubbed me all shades of violet, the sun disk sawed me in half. He follows me to the kitchen. Here he comes, his canine shape gleaming like polished jet. I stoop over my coffee, hiss at him to go. My mouth lands on his drooping ear, but the silly dog is deaf, his dumb tongue a huge slab, searching my hand like a rodent. When milk won't do, he loves the sting of salt. He nuzzles the lid of my eye. Wherever I go, he follows. At office desks, restaurant booths, hunched in the seat of a taxi, my faithful dog sniffs out my bones. When lovers come, he turns possessive. I wriggle free from their fingers, stop them kissing the sides of my jaw. They leave when I talk to the papered wall and tell them the guard dog is snarling. I grieve when their footsteps have died. I go to bed at odd hours, watch the small pulse of blue time. When sleep stands me up with a zero moon, the dog strikes me down with his paw.
Very good, very good. So a couple of questions. The first one would be, what does being a versifier for the Birthplace entail?
That's a position that allows me to run workshops for people who might be interested in writing who haven't done it before. Could be established writers. It's about engaging with people, getting them involved creatively, whether that's poetry, stories, plays, because versifier is someone who writes more than just poetry. It's all different forms, which is what Dylan Thomas was.
Yeah.
People tend to talk about his poetry, but not so much about his short stories and Undermilk Woods, and I just want to push that with people.
Good, good, good. Who's your favourite poet and why would it be?
I'm supposed to say Dylan Thomas.
Well, no. You can say whoever you like because modern or
yeah. Well, Dylan's definitely one of them. Another huge influence on me was Sylvia Plath.
Yeah.
As for more modern poets, I absolutely love Brian Papin. I remember his book, Love Poems. I just read it and reread it and reread it. Yeah. There's just so many good contemporary poets, and they just keep growing as well. So it's a good thing.
I hear you've recently spent some time overseas. Can you tell us a little bit about what that entailed?
Yeah, that was the Dylan Thomas Literary Residency. It's quite similar to the role of Versifier in that we'd be going out there, we'd be taking Dylan's work with us, engaging with the community, we'd have workshops running, we were exploring the culture, getting really involved in it, and people were coming along that had never written before, and then suddenly, by the Friday of that week, we were standing up just reading their own poetry in public, which was a brave thing to do. But I was really impressed with the stuff that came out there.
Was there a big take-up for it because they were following, obviously, and with the Dylan Thomas theme and stuff? Did they embrace that?
They actually did. They were curious about it.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of translations of Dylan Thomas's work in a centre piece in the local library, so people did come along to all the readings. We'd get the same people coming along, and people got close to each other as well, and there were friendships and people who can continue to write, and that's been good.
Yeah, I suppose different things like that can bring communities together.
Yeah. I
suppose. Well, that's great. Thanks ever so much, and hopefully we'll see you in a little while to do some more.
Okay.
Thanks, Natalie. And now we'll be having David Warrington to do some prose. If you could ask David to come in, that'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks, Natalie.
Okay.
As Matthew was saying earlier on, Dylan Thomas did write prose, but he wasn't a big fan of them. But I suppose they have their place in poetry as well. So, without further ado, here comes David. I'd like to have a seat. Cheers. This is David Warrington, and I will let you get on with your prose.
Right. This is an extract from a book I am in the process of writing called To Live Like Kids Forever,
right,
which is a collection of memories charting the life and times of the Swansea hustler.
Right, very.
Right, and this is called The Big Game. Gamblers never make the same mistake twice. It's usually about a dozen. Swansea, 1973. Up the flight of stairs at the rear of the corner shop is my flat, which I've shared with Spider, a friend of mine. It's not much of a flat, more of a bedsit, but it does have one very special feature, the card table. And come the end of the week, every seat is taken, all 8 of them. And with 600 quid up the grabs, it's time again to make careful preparation, seems spontaneous. So, says Minty, the owner of the corner shop, fondling 2 packs of cards I have given him. Let me get this straight. Tomorrow night, somewhere around 8:30, maybe 9, a man will come in and buy 2 packs of cards. And want me to sell him these? Yes, I say. I'll make sure you do. Minty looks puzzled. Why? He says. No whys, I reply. Just selling the cards. Like banging a fiver. Minty looks at the cards, then at the fiver, and then at me. He mutters. Wink, wink, is it? I make no comment. But I like Minty. He's old school. And if the price was right, he'd sell his wife. The trouble is he drinks a lot. And prone to getting drunk. Rumour has it he got so sloshed one night he fell on the floor in a local pub and couldn't get up and had to crawl home. No big deal, mind you. He lived just around the corner. But a crawl is still a crawl, and it was still 200 yards away. At which time his wife, who found him on the doorstep, said, "Where's your wheelchair?" Friday, 7 p.m. The doc arrives first, he always does. He's a compulsive gambler, and if you want him, dodgy sick note, fake prescription, or crooked driving license, he can get it. He's closely followed by the Duke, a tall, dapper man in need of sunlight and possessed with crooked identity, wearing a blue sports coat and kept a tie. Good to see you, he says. It's my birthday. But when candles cost more than the cake, you know you're getting old. And I agreed to say nothing. He once joined Gamblers Anonymous. He was given 3 to 1, he wouldn't make it. They also say he was the first man on the moon. That's why there was no sign of life. Then Archie arrives, all gob and swagger, and once found not guilty of armed robbery, at which time he said to the judge, "Does that mean I can keep the money?" But that was then and this is now. Chewing fat cigars and looking like characters from The Godfather. The Papadopoulos brothers arrived, Stavros and Airloff, 2 Greek Cypriots known to have underworld connections, and no strangers to trouble. I wasn't expecting them. Before I can speak, Stavros says, "Sammy the Scam couldn't make it, nor for double-crossing Sid." And I wonder why. But say nothing. Some things were best left unsaid, and I value my health. And somewhere in the small talk, Terry the Shill appears, a cartoon villain with a sharp grin, but wishes he hadn't. He owes the Papadopoulos brothers 2K, money he borrowed to open a massage parlour that went bandy. The local council built a police station next door. And somewhere around 7:30, the nicety's over, the stage is set, and we all sit down to play poker, dealer's choice, and we all, apart from the dock, have one thing in common: we all cheat. Hence the cards are given into your mark. With the help of Spider, took me the best part of the day to protect me from the corners with various shades of down, and we see the cellar fog. But will my cunning plan work? Of course it will. Half an hour later, 7-card stud announces the Duke. Deuce is wild. "Deuces, please, Archie. You mean ducks?" "Yes," says the Duke. "Quack, quack." And I watch him deal the card. Watch him angle the cards over his shiny silver directly, resting on the table, and by doing so, to see the reflection, and know what cards he's dealing to himself. But I don't care. Sitting next to him, I can also see the cards he's dealing to me and the other players. 20 minutes later, my flat already smells like the back room of a saloon bar. Beer bottles litter the floor. Cigarette smoke clings to the ceiling. But that doesn't stop Archie dealing off the bottom of the deck, or the Papadopoulos brothers from colluding, sending signals to each other. And so far my luck is good, very good. I can't stop winning, and I haven't started cheating yet. Early days, I say. And this is a cue for Spider to start bending the corners and all of the aces. Make it so obvious everyone can see them, and it works. The Doc, the percentage player, not only spots the bent corners, but also the pricks Terry the Shill has made with a needle point on the base of his finger ring. "New cards," he shouts. "I want new cards." And everyone agrees. 10 minutes later, he returns with 2 new decks, several probably intact, he bought from the corner shop. And now the real game begins, a game of chance and skill, and the odds stacked in my favor. But the problem is, as the game progresses, I still can't stop winning. I don't need my advantage. Even when I have a bad hand, everyone folds. I've heard of lucky streaks, yes, but this is ridiculous. And that I'm sorry to say, can only mean one thing. I will be scrutinized, and so will the cards. And that wasn't supposed to happen, but it does. "Who do you think you are?" says Archie. "Meyer Wolfsheim?" referring to the man who fixed the 1919 World Series of Baseball. And he's right. If I don't start losing a few hands and fast, I'm up the creek, and the Doc's already becoming suspicious. "Hold it," he says, as I start to view the cards. "Cut the deck again." At which time the Papadopoulos brothers give me the glare. Not good. I cut the deck and deal again, and this is becoming embarrassing. Without looking at my hand, I know I've dealt myself 4 aces. On one hand can beat it, a straight flush, and that hand ain't on the table. Or is it? Stavros bets 50 quid just to open. 50 quid? Who in his right mind bets 50 quid just to open? And I can't see his cards. He's palmed them. It must be a trap. There is a scene from the film The Cincinnati Kid, where the camera pans down from the ceiling. It shows 2 players, Steve McQueen and Edward G. Robinson, engaged in the art of direct eye contact without flinching. And although the outcome is quite unbelievable, it is the best film yet to portray the fundamental art of bluffing. But is he bluffing, or is he just a setup? Either way it spells trouble, big trouble. I could end up in need of a careful. Well, he says, Are you going to call, raise or pull? And I feel like I'm walking a cellophane bridge. Think I'll make a cup of tea, says Spider, and quickly leaves the room, at which time the dog scratches his chin and looks curiously at the young girl's car. Another bad sign. If he looks close enough, he will spot the dad. Well, repeats Stavros. John the bookie, an old-time grifter, once told me, if he can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, and I agree. Bold, I eventually reply. I need the bathroom, and also leave the room. Well, I don't just leave the room. Once I'm past the door, I scarf her, and so does Spider. He scuttled down the stairs like escaped convicts on the run. 2 hours later. What now? Says Spider. Any other bright ideas? As he lights a cigarette in the full glare of the street lamp. They ain't going to go till we come back. And he's right. Well, he says. Well, I reply. Fancy living in Bristol? I will never forget that motley gang of card players. They were scamsters, tricksters, artful dodgers, even rogues perhaps. But that said, apart from the Papadopoulos brothers, when it came to real life, they were all kids in the playground, gentlemen of the first order having fun. And that's for the Papadopoulos brothers. I met them in Brighton 10 years back at the Summer Breeze Poker Festival. Stavros made it to the final of the high-low tournament, and so did I. We played heads up. I won.
Very good. Very good indeed. Just a few questions before you go. Who would you say your favourite writer is, and why, and how does it influence you in your writings?
I don't really have a favourite writer. I do very little reading.
Right.
It's a hobby.
It's a hobby. Yeah, very good. Well, how long have you been writing?
I wrote for Mad magazine back in the mid-60s. And ever since then I've been dabbling. I wrote a couple of episodes of a series that was shown on ITV in the 1980s, which was, I think it was called Streets of London, or something similar to that, which was a couple of rogues on the run.
And that was screenplay then, you were doing.
Yeah. And then I had a book published. Well, fortunate to have a book published, but so I have sort of various intervals. I might go a couple of years, I don't do nothing, and it's a big round.
Fall back in love with it now. This book that you're writing now, when are you hoping to finish that and get it published?
Well, it is more or less published, and I have had an offer, and I've turned it down.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll keep people up to date on that for when it comes out, and we'll add it to the website so people can see.
Smashing.
Marvellous. Thanks ever so much.
And thank you.
If you could ask SJ to come in, and
Mr. Anderson.
Yes, indeed, and he can do some stuff then. That was very good. Next we have up is S.J. Alexanderson, a poet from Llanelli, who writes about all sorts of things. And later on, when we're finishing, there may be a couple of poems that have a bit of swearing in, so that'll be later on anyway. So I'd like to welcome S.J. Alexanderson to the hot seat.
Thank you very much indeed.
And,
Glad to be here.
And I will let you carry on.
Before I am. Now you've got me.
Right, I will let you carry on with some of your poems, and if you can introduce yourself first, that'd be fantastic.
Right, I'm still S.J. Alexanderson. I haven't changed my name in the last 3 seconds. So glad to be here tonight. Fantastic to be in Dylan Thomas's birthplace in 5 Clondonkin Street in Swansea. If you can't get inspired here, you won't get inspired anywhere. Absolutely fantastic. So thanks very much to our host for allowing us to be here tonight to film this and share some of our words with you. I don't know what sort of poetry to go into initially. I write a lot of varied stuff. The stuff I like to write is sort of sharp, pointy poetry. Stuff that's that sharp, you stand a chance of cutting your hand when you actually pick up the book to read it. I don't do a lot of frippery, and I don't see the point in a lot of poetry that's out there that's pretty well constructed, yes, but hasn't got a message. It doesn't do it for me. Now, I'm well aware that it will do things for other people out there, but as far as I'm concerned, I want something that I'm passionate about and I think other people should care about as well. So maybe I'll start one tonight called The Race. I won't say what it's about, that will become self-evident as I do it. Here we go. It's called The Race. It really doesn't matter, for Earth exists no more. Mankind has left the building through the celestial door. It's gone to meet its maker in skies beyond the sun. Flying through the universe, the human race is run. We ignore all the warning signs and let our mother die, but do not shed a tear, my child. Do not think to cry. For though we saw it coming, it really was too late, as greed and global warming had sealed our planet's fate. And now in space there flies themselves journeying afar, seeking out a habitat, orbiting a star, where they may fall from skies of blue upon a friendly host, and maybe through millennia reincarnate our ghost. But what's to say that we would ever walk upon that land? For if we did develop, would we use a gentle hand, or stifle all the goodness that our new home could provide, then kill another world again with abject homicide? Perhaps that's the conundrum. We've all been there before. We're universal renegades in breach of nature's law. We colonize a planet, then strip it of its wealth. We are the human locust, forsaking global health. Very good. That's The Race to you. Some of my stuff is adult-orientated. Perhaps that's the best way to describe it. I do swear in some of my poetry, not just for the sake of swearing. I think it's valid because of the nature of the type of poetry I write. Some of it is very serious, and some of the subjects I write about make me angry. The anger comes out in the form of swear words. I'll let you decide later on when I'm back on whether it's valid or not. It would be good if you get in touch with the site to say whether you've enjoyed tonight's performances by myself, Natalie, or David. Hopefully it'll go down well. We're hoping to make this a regular event. So here we go. I'll step into the next poem now, and I've got to be careful here as to what I read because of the language. So I think I'll choose one that's called Swan. If I just give you a bit of background to that, I was walking to my GP's back last year on a crisp winter's morning, nice blue sky, not a cloud about, frost on the floor, and there were two swans flying in the sky, and a beautiful, beautiful sight. And I got home, and it was almost as if I used a conduit for the words. They just came to me. I haven't altered it since. And the reason I haven't altered it is because within 15 minutes of getting home, it was down on the paper in this form. Forgive me, I don't know this one off by heart, so I'll have to refer to my book. So here we go. It's called Swan. Basically, I should explain that the last verse is fairly ambiguous because it's open to interpretation. I know what my interpretation of the last verse is and why it's ended the way it has. But I'll let you decide because, as I say, it is open to interpretation. So here we go. Swan. White, white swan in a blue, blue sky. Where do you go to? Where do you fly? I'm off to the lakes in mountains so high to visit old friends, and I'm late, so goodbye. Please, please, swan, may I journey with you, where the dawn creeps in, bejeweled by dew? Oh yes, climb aboard, for I'll carry you through to a place that is secret to all but a few. Dear, dear swan, I'm so grateful, you know, for the strength and the heart that you so kindly show. Don't worry, my friend, for I know why you go. Because now is your time. You'll go safely, go slow. Kind, kind swan, you carried me here to a sacred hilltop and a sacred mere. Up in the clouds where my heaven is near. Now I may move onwards without any fear. Old man, close your eyes and sleep. The sleep of the dead, so sound and so deep. Now the birds fill the air and the fishes leap to guide your soul home where the angels will weep. Okay. Robbie's just asked me if I do one called 96.
It's quite a powerful piece.
It is an incredibly powerful piece. I don't want to preempt a legal situation at the moment for ongoing. It's to do with the Hillsborough disaster. And obviously, as an average member of society, I was absolutely horrified and mortified by the whole situation. It's a terrible tragedy that has befallen us within our times. And my heart goes out to each and every family involved. So here we go. It's called 96 for obvious reasons. 96 reasons they lied to the world. 96 reasons they lied. 96 people who never came home. 96 people who died. 96 fans who followed their team. 96 fans full of hope. 96 humans were treated like beasts. 96 driven hard on that slope. 96 souls with nowhere to go. 96 souls flew away. 96 looked down from clouds high above. 96 entered heaven that day. 96 loved ones have gone from this world. 96 loved ones no more. 96 victims of lies and deceit. 96 killed over the Lord.
It's very, very powerful. Right. Now I've got a couple of questions for you. Like I've asked everybody else, who is your favourite writer / poet, and where do you draw your inspiration from in terms of them?
I don't think I can possibly say just one.
Right.
There are lots of influences to my writing. Initially, it was very talented and very dark Patrick Jones, and the equally talented Bridge End poet Mike Church. They encouraged me when I started writing, and I did a workshop with both of them on separate times, and I got a lot out of it. They were very inspirational. As far as published poets, so I tend to read a lot and watch a lot in performance. I'm a great fan of John Cooper Clarke, obviously, who isn't? I love the rhythm of his poetry. It's tremendous. You virtually start with a tune and throw words at it, and sometimes I try to emulate that in my writing, obviously without the class of him as an acerbic writer that he is. Mike Gary, Mank, performance poet, is another favourite of mine. He writes some stunning material. As does Luke Wright. On the opposite side of the scale, Luke is a very, very funny poet. Tremendous wit with the man, great performance, and well worth a listen to. Closer to home, obviously, we're in Dylan Thomas's home for the first 23 years of his life. I love Dylan's work, but possibly his prose more so than his poetry. His use of words is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. So there's a number of poets that I actually like to listen to, like to watch perform, and like to emulate my own writing.
Yeah.
I like the dark side of life, and I must admit, because I'm a realist, life isn't all sugar and cakes and everything sweet. Certainly my life hasn't been like that, and I want to reflect my life in my writing.
Without writing too much about cats.
Oh yes, but I do actually have a cat poem which I will perform later. I will finish my set with a cat poem. People who write about cats, fine. Yeah, that's great. If that's what you want to write about, we'll do it. Yeah. The main thing is to write.
Yeah.
But, you know, don't do it in front of me. Don't perform in front of me, please.
And you've had quite a bit to do with the centenary down in Larne as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to. I went down on the long weekend and saw three of my heroes perform down there. I was lucky enough to meet Mab Jones, who's incredibly talented and uniquely gifted, as well as Johnny Giles, who is a fantastic poet in his own right, who's got his first book being published shortly, which I'm looking forward to reading. And I've also performed in the Boathouse in Larne. I did so in April of this year. The Brands Hotel in Larne, obviously, which was Dylan's watering hole last month. And now the jewel of the crown, his home, where he was born and where he wrote 2/3 of his material.
Mm. Well, your poetry, do you mostly draw it from life experience as well, rather than...
Very much so. I'm 53. Shocking, I know. But yeah, I've done a lot in my life. I've done a single parent thing, and brought up my 4 eldest children. I've got 5 other children as well. Now, sadly, I live alone, and I've got a lot of time in my hands, so it gives me time to think, you know, about the past without having too many regrets, and to put my feelings down on paper. You can't turn the television on and stick the news on and hear good news. You know, they limit any good news to about a 30-second slot at the end, just to end on, because the world is not a place of good news, unfortunately. And I wouldn't say I don't like to do that. It's unfortunate that it is that way, but it does tend to be reflected in my writing.
Mm. The darker side of life.
Realism.
Realism.
Yeah, it is real life. But there we go. You know, it's good to hear it in a different format rather than just on the news. Yeah. Trying to get it into an art form, as it were.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. Thanks very much for reading a couple of poems, and we will have you back on in a bit.
Right, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Very much.
It's nice and bit.
I think we're going to have a 5-minute break, and then you'll come back then. Thanks for listening in. We're going to have a 5 to 10 minute intermission now. So if you'd like to grab yourself a cup of tea or a beer, or have a quick cigarette, whatever you want to do, and keep the window open, and we'll be back very shortly. Cheers.